Edition of the weekend edition, we have the one and only James Horner. Well, I'm your host, Lian Hansen, and I thank you for joining us. Well, James Horner, music composer, stud muffin, where did you get the job to compose the music for the movie Titanic? Where did you start? Oh, it's one of my favorite movies.
Before I got the job, I actually had a couple of conversations with James Cameron, the director. We were looking for something relatively unconventional, being that the film is present day and, well, a period film as well. We wanted to find something that would emotionally tell the story, but musically would not, how to say this, bring out baggage with it. I was very nervous about this big orchestra thing because I didn't want some big Hollywood sinking spectacle, and James also didn't want that, and that's really where we both started.
But didn't you know, have to use a big orchestra with everything that it is involved in order, in many ways, to convey just the utter majesty and the grandeur of what the ship was supposed to be, the megalith Titanic?
Well, yes and no. To me, the big orchestra had to be used for the most size and scope, primarily the sinking. I could solve the problem with synthesizers or with more rarefied approach. I was looking for something really very personal and human, which is why I chose the voice. And I used synth to give it a slightly contemporary feeling and also slightly timeless feeling at the same time. To a scene, I immediately would just date it, saying, this just big orchestra thing. And well, it just brings its own baggage in my mind when I hear violins and oboes and everything doing what they usually do. I wanted to look for something to solve the problem, and so really where I started was with that.
Well, I wonder whether or not you might have the one that the ship sinking, the utter horror, the utter death. On the CD, it's referred to as Cut 10, the death of the Titanic. Huge minor dissonant chords. Everything's crashing at once, just like the ship going to the murky depths of the bottom of the blue ocean.
Nice way of thinking about it. I'm sort of closing my eyes as you describe it. I don't think that sequence was done quite a long time because of the effects.
Were you working with the film at all when you were composing that sequence? That is to say, did you have the footage?
Jim was afraid to let me have it because it was constantly in flux. The sequence, I think, first started with was leaving port, and for the first time we see the Titanic when the actress Gloria Stewart, the elderly Rose, describes to the assembled group that there was what it was like in the China and all of these things. And you go to 1912 for the first time. That's actually the first sequence I worked on. But if I could solve that big scale, for the first time you see the ship in the dock with the thousands of people boarding her, I felt I had it made. It was also an important sequence for him because it was the first test of whether his technique of getting in and out of period was going to be successful or not. And it was sort of a watershed sequence for us both.
You love to use the voice in such a way. Does the voice just figure into the scene so well? I mean, it's an absolutely wonderful sort of choir.
I have indeed, yes. There's a tremendous human quality that the voice gives. It's funny, we're talking about this. I wanted in Titanic to give this electronic sounding. It's not pure vocal like a choir singing in a church. But on the other films where I've used boys' choirs or voices, it's very for the most part human. It's a human so compelling and so naked when it sings by itself that I just find so emotionally powerful.
Well, I just have to ask you, did you come up with the theme rather quickly? Because I noticed that there is a series of notes that come up and are repeated within the different instruments. I mean, there are times, I just wish I could hum them for you. Well, I think I can try. I have to warm up. My voice is delicate.
Content of the film, the tone of the film, and what instruments, what sounds are going to paint for me the emotions that I feel. After I've settled on the instruments, then I will try to write themes, but themes come very, very fast. I mean, it takes me no time at all to come up with any kind of theme. What takes a bit longer is finding exactly the right color that is going to sing the theme or play it for me.
Well, I can be the bearer, maybe not of bad news, but perhaps the bearer of information that comes from some of those places. Very serious discussions of film music go out on that internet. And what you've done, and they compare you, and they contrast you to us and your other work. I mean, people really seem to pick it apart like vultures or crows. And one thing that always seems to come up as a hot topic about you is self-plagiarism.
Oh, I didn't know that. You're cute.
Oh.
That's too funny. Oh, I have purposely avoided my name on that internet. I don't want to find out what evil lurks about. Oh, no. Actually, I don't think I steal from myself at all. I really try not to. I think, as a writer matures, one should develop a very distinctive style. And after, even through your own work, the different films, it is the same writer after all, right?
James Horner, the man, the composer, the absolute stud I've mentioned before. Well, he has composed Titanic from the lovely Los Angeles, the city of the angels, via the video.
Well, thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night. Next week, join me as I interview nobody, because my show has been cancelled. Thank you. Have a good night.